السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. رب زدني علما رب يسر ولا تعلمني بالخير ثم أما بعد والحمد لله. Brothers and sisters, welcome to another lesson of the Fiqh series, and we are now covering the Fiqh of marriage and eventually talaq as well, inshallah. And we've reached up to the chapter of Babu Muharramat al-Zawaj, or the chapter, which translates as the chapter of the people that you are not allowed to get married to. Okay, and this chapter will include al-Muharramatu bisabab al-Qaraba, the people that you are not allowed to get married to because they are very close to you in relationship. And then al-musahara and rida' and muaqqatan, and inshallah we'll translate each one of those as we go along, inshallah. So as we've gone through the various different chapters over the past 11 or so lessons, because today's 12th lesson, we've spoken about various different things, Islam's encouragement towards marriage, how to go around proposing, how to what to look at, what to what are the matching factors, what are the kuf issues, what are the things that make a person compatible for their spouse, and so on. And this particular chapter, before we move on, is going to speak about that in Islam there are certain people between whom marriage is not acceptable, and this is clearly stated in the Quran, and ahadith also clarify them. And then there is of course the ijma' consensus of fuqaha during the times, throughout the times, from the earliest of times up until now. The muharramat, the women, generally we're talking about, even though the discussion is explaining it with the wording in relation to women, but it includes of course men in the opposite side. So I'll explain inshallah as we go. But the point being is in Surah Nisa, Allah Azza wa Jalla says that حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُمْ وَبَنَاتُكُمْ وَأَخَوَاتُكُم. So all of these people are actually, these are names, these are relationships to you. So حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُم. Allah has made forbidden for you to get married to ummahatukum, of course your mothers. وَحُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُمْ وَبَنَاتُكُم, and because these are, even though it may be obvious, but the legal system has to be very clear and explicit, and the Quran is saying that حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُم, your mothers, وَبَنَاتُكُم, and your daughters, وَأَخَوَاتُكُم, and your sisters, وَعَمَّاتُكُم, and your aunties, your paternal aunties, وَعَمَّاتُكُم وَخَالَاتُكُم, and your maternal aunties, وَبَنَاتُ الْأَخِ, and your nieces, the daughters of your brothers, وَبَنَاتُ الْأَخِ وَبَنَاتُ الْأُخْتِ, and the daughters of your sisters, your nieces from your brother and your sister, وَبَنَاتُ الْأَخِ وَبَنَاتُ الْأُخْتِ وَأُمَّهَاتُكُمُ اللَّاتِي أَرْضَعْنَكُمْ, and the mothers who have suckled you, who have breastfed you, وَأُمَّهَاتُكُمُ اللَّاتِي أَرْضَعْنَكُمْ وَأَخَوَاتُكُم مِّنَ الرَّضَاعَةِ, and your sisters and your brothers, of course, for women, your brothers, for men, your sisters from who have been suckled by the same woman. So وَأَخَوَاتُكُم مِّنَ الرَّضَاعَةِ وَأُمَّهَاتُ نِسَائِكُمْ, and the mothers of your wives, وَأُمَّهَاتُ نِسَائِكُمْ وَرَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّاتِي فِي حُجُورِكُم مِّن نِسَائِكُمُ اللَّاتِي دَخَلْتُم بِهِنَّ, and the daughters of the women that you get married to. So suppose a sister was previously married, a woman was previously married, and then she had children from that previous marriage. They could be sons or daughters. Of course, now the question of sons doesn't come in, because we're talking about the father here, as in the new husband of the woman. And so it's saying that you cannot get married to the daughters of your wives that you have married and they had daughters from before. So وَبَنَاتُ الْأَخِ وَبَنَاتُ أُمَّهَاتُ نِسَائِكُمْ وَرَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّاتِي فِي حُجُورِكُم مِّن نِسَائِكُمُ اللَّاتِي دَخَلْتُم بِهِنَّ. We'll inshallah cover all of this in detail. مِّن نِسَائِكُمُ اللَّاتِي دَخَلْتُم وَحَلَائِلُ أَبْنَائِكُمُ الَّذِينَ مِنْ أَصْلَابِكُم. You cannot also get married to the wives of your sons, as your daughters-in-law, وحلائل أبنائكم الذين من أصلابكم وأن تجمعوا بين الأختين إلا ما قد سلف. And you cannot get married to two sisters at the same time. So a man cannot be married to two sisters, or a sister, or a woman and her aunt at the same time. And inshallah we'll explain all of that as we go forward. But this is sort of main foundational ayah which is in Surah An-Nisa. And then it carries on, وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَّا مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَأُحِلَّ لَكُمْ مَا وَرَاءَ ذَلِكُمْ. وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ, meaning those women who are already married, of course, to in another marriage. And so to even express intention of marriage to a woman who is already married is a very, very bad, very dangerous, very filthy, you can say, crime. It's very, very haram. And this has become, I don't know, it's like an illness in society, where sometimes you have this concept of it's unspeakable. We have people interested in the wives of others, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, and we have people interested in the husband of another woman, in that sort of, and it's even more worse when it comes to the wives of others, because that's completely haram. A woman cannot be married to and so to more than one man, of course. And so therefore to even contemplate that, or to have those kind of thoughts, is very, very problematic, and it shouldn't be the case. Nonetheless, inshallah, وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ إِلَّا مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ. Allah Azza wa Jal has decreed this for you. وَأُحِلَّ لَكُمْ مَا وَرَاءَ ذَلِكُمْ, and what's beyond that, it's basically Allah's made it halal. But of course all of these, the ayah, it comes with its tafsir, and the tafsir is done by other Quranic ayat. And this is a principle of tafsir that we should know, that when we come to understand the Quran, we must first understand the Quran with the remaining of the Quran. And here we have a lot of these sort of modern experts and scholars who are sometimes misunderstanding the Quran and Sunnah, is because they don't understand the Quran and Sunnah and Islam holistically. You see, so they get, for example, an ayah of the Quran and sort of go into a tafsir of it and think, yeah, this is in the Quran, and so therefore, no, that's not how Islam works. Islam is a complete religion, and its evidences are coherent. They support and they connect to one another, and they complete one another. And so for us to be able to understand the Quran, we must understand it with the complete Quran. And that's why the whole ilm of translation, the knowledge and the science of translation and tafsir, is a delicate one. It takes a lot of mastery and expertise for one to be able to embark upon it and to be good at it. And if you're not so, then you should not do it. You should leave it to those who have been qualified and trained to do so. Nonetheless, Quran must be understood. Quran must be understood in comparison to the rest of the Quran. And then if the explanation of that is not found in the rest of the Quran, then the Sunnah also explains it. So tafsir al-Quran bil-Quran wa tafsir al-Quran bil-Sunnah. And then you've got the explanations of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een, the scholars of the past, the Salaf al-Salihin, the Mujtahideen, the great scholars of the past. We cannot just bypass all of that and go and come up with a new meaning of the Quran as if it's just a new revelation for you to go and explore. We must go and see what the Quran says about this ayah, what the Hadith says about this ayah, what the Sahaba have said about this ayah, how they've understood it, how the expert Mufassirun from the earliest of times, from the time of the likes of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu and the other Sahaba and the Tabi'een, like Al-Mujahid and Muqatil and others who were sort of experts, or Hasan al-Basri, who are experts in tafsir. And then we've got the earliest of tafsir that are collected, like the tafsir of Ibn Jarir al-Tabari. Imam al-Tabari is his great sort of encyclopedia of tafsir. All of these should be studied in order to be able to explain and go and give a meaning to before trying to interpret it in our own way. So the chapter of women that you are not allowed to get married to, and for these women not to be allowed to get are not allowed to get married to the relevant or the mentioned men. Okay, first of all, as we've said before, اتفق الفقهاء على عدم صحة الزواج من المحرمات بسبب القرابة. Someone who's extremely close to you because of relationship, you are not allowed to get married to them, and that refers to, of course, not just any relationship. It talks about, for example, Allah says, um, uh, so for the mothers and the sisters that we've explained in the ayah, in the translation of the ayah. And in fact, let me just read that for you once again. Shaykh, if you just give me the phone once, and then I'll just read the translation for you once, and then you can perhaps have a list. So these close relatives that are mentioned here are there along with the others that will be covered in the other chapters. Let me just pull that up. It is the last ayah of the Juz 4. Okay, last ayah of Juz 4 and the first ayah of Juz 5. It says, Allah says in the Quran, prohibited for you are your mothers. These are very close people to you, your mothers, your daughters, your sisters, your paternal aunts, your maternal aunts, daughters of your brothers, daughters of your sisters, your mothers who suckled you, your sisters through suckling, as in same woman has suckled this woman and this man, okay, mothers of your wives and your stepdaughters under your care who are born of your women with whom you have consummated the marriage, okay, and that's a list of, and then it says there is no, okay, and the wives of your sons, and that you are not allowed to get married to two sisters at the same time. But then that comes in. So the close relatives that I've mentioned here are your mothers, your sisters, your aunts, both paternal and maternal, daughters of your brothers, daughters of your sisters, okay, your mothers who suckled you, your brothers and sisters through suckling, as in you've been suckled by the same woman, mothers of your wives, as in your mother-in-law, your daughters-in-law, as in the daughters who are daughters of your women that you've been married to, as in she had a daughter before in another marriage and then she got married to you and then she had a daughter already, and so that daughter is of course haram for you as well, and of course the wives of your sons. And this list, even though it's just saying one step into it, it would also include many steps up or many steps down. So when it says, for example, your mothers, you would include your grandmothers also and your great grandmothers also. And when it says your daughters, it would include your granddaughters and your great granddaughters also. That's completely that's been explained by the Sunnah and the Ijma' of the ulama as well. And so that's the case. So these are people that you cannot get married to because they are extremely close to you, because of closeness, because bisababil al-qaraba. Okay. The next chapter, it talks about women that become haram for you to get married because of marriage, because of other marriages, okay, because of women you cannot get married to because of a relationship of marriage that's already occurred in your family. Okay, so what does that mean? For example, this comes in four categories. Number one is that you cannot get married to the mother of your wife, your mother-in-law. This is of course clear, it's known, but again, as we've said, the legal system is very clear and it's very elaborate, so that it's going to have to mention that. And the mothers of your wife and her grandmothers and her great, وَإِنْ عَلَوْنَا, doesn't matter how many levels higher they go. Now this is not, if someone comes with a thought like hypothetical, why would they, this is not the question. It's not about why would they probably won't, but it's just laying out the rules and regulations as in the Quran and Sunnah. Okay, and the majority of the fuqaha, and this is just with the marriage contract. So if someone does aqdun nikah to a woman, okay, if someone conducts or has the aqdun nikah with a woman, as in now she's become your wife legally, right, then just with the contract, just by the contract or by the contract itself, it will now be haram for a person to get married to the wife's mother and her great grandmother and her great and so on. Okay, that's bimujarrad al-aqd. Okay, and this is with the ittifaq of the jumhur of the fuqaha, with the mass majority of the fuqaha. There is some ikhtilaf there, but inshallah we'll move on. Where it says, and then the next is, so that's category and type number one, that you are, first reason why someone may be haram for you to get married to is because they're very close in relationship to you. Now, when we say close in relationship to you, it's not the close in relationship that you feel like they're close in relationship to you. For example, your cousins. Now, sometimes we're very close to our cousins. Sometimes, cousin sisters, cousin brothers. For the sisters, they think I'm very close to this. I'm very close to this cousin of mine. And so, it's how can I get married to that person? Now, it's whether you get married or not it's not the question. It's your choice, of course. But the point being is that person is technically and legally allowed. It is allowed for you to get married to that person, even though you feel like you're very close, or we're like brothers, or we're like sisters. But technically, according to the Islamic guidance, they are not your blood brothers or your blood sisters, and technically it is possible for you to get married to that person, and so therefore they are not your mahram. Mahram as in mahram is not muharram per se, not always, but they are not your mahram as in you cannot go around and have khalwa with them, or have just sort of free mix with them. You shouldn't be doing these things, because that kind of interaction with someone who you are technically or potentially allowed to get married to is not permitted. Who you are allowed to sort of be a bit more free with, freely mix with, and so on and so forth, is also stipulated in the Quran and Sunnah. And your cousins are people that you can get married to, and so therefore, and similarly, even like we have this concept in our tradition, dulabai and babi. Dulabai and babi is like there is no notion of parda, if you like. It's a word that they use for hijab. There's no concept of hijab, or like avoiding free mixing from that person. This is not with the Islamic teachings. That your brother-in-law, your dulabai is your dulabai. That's fine. You respect him and you love him and you be hospitable to that person. But as for sort of sitting next to an extreme humor and sort of doing sort of being involved in freely mixing, okay, that is not permitted with your shali, your daughter, your sister-in-law, as in your sisters-in-law, any of them, your shali, or her elder sisters, or your dulabai and his brothers. Because I'm saying this specifically because this is something that's quite widespread in our community, and that should be brought into our attention, and that should be avoided, because it is not allowed for us to freely mix with those who are not mahram to us. Okay? Right. We've said that some people you cannot get married to because they're very close to you, and we've given the list of those people. Then there are others who you cannot get married to because of another marriage that has taken place. Okay, because of a marriage that has taken place. And the first of them, they've said that there are 4 categories. And first of them is the mothers and the mother of your wife, and her grandmother and great-grandmother, regardless of how many stages high they go. Bint Zawja, the daughter of your the daughter of your wife. So your wife had a daughter beforehand, and then you got married to her, okay? And then now this daughter, her daughter is not your daughter. She's not your biological daughter, but she's your daughter through marriage. Stepdaughter. But this daughter now, even though she's a stepdaughter, Islam has honored that relationship, and sort of what I mean by honored is it's basically considered that relationship to be such that it forbids marriage between the stepdad and the stepdaughter. And that's even with her offspring and her children and her daughters were in safalna, regardless of how many stages it goes down. So it would be completely forbidden for that kind of marriage to take place. The third category and the third type is the daughters-in-law through marriage of your sons. Halilati al-ibn that the daughters-in-law who are the wives of your sons, wabn al-ibn, and your grandsons, and so on, regardless of how many stages they go down. Allah says in the Quran, وَحَلَائِلُ أَبْنَائِكُمُ الَّذِينَ مِنْ أَصْلَابِكُم, and this is وَأَن تَجْمَعُوا بَيْنَ الْأُخْتَيْنِ. Inshallah, we'll come to that. The fourth category is زوجة الأب, the wife of your father. Wife of your father isn't necessarily always your mother, because it could be another marriage. Okay, so the wife of your father and the wives of your grandfathers, are completely, who are your stepmoms and your grandmothers and your, or step grandmothers, if you like, all of this is completely forbidden for in terms of marriage. And so we've said that marriage could be forbidden to people, with people, because of extreme closeness. We've said what they are. Marriage could also be forbidden to someone, for someone, with someone, because of another marriage that has taken place previously. And we've said that they are 4 categories. One is the mother of your wife, and regardless of how many stages up it goes. Next is the daughter of your wife, regardless of how many stages it goes down. Her daughters, and so on and so forth. The wife of your son, the wife of your son and your grandson, regardless of how many steps it goes down. And the wife of your father and your grandfather, regardless of how many steps it goes up. Now this is, I'll be honest with you, this is not a very easy topic to understand or to decode, and usually, generally speaking, we don't have much of a problem with it, because people are usually, when it comes to marriage, generally I'm speaking, like sort of people, when they look to get married, the world is a big place, and they look, they find their spouses from various different avenues. Now, mashallah, you've got lots of different methods of, supporting and to find the correct spouse. And so this may never be a realistic case, but in theory, these are the legislations, and there is a bit more detail to it, but inshallah we don't need to go into too much of it because it's not that relevant either. Okay, there is the next section of this is, so the first section of women or people who are not allowed to get married to one another was because of extreme closeness. Next section was due to another marriage that took place before, and we've explained what they are, the 4 categories in that section. And then the third category, or the third reason, is because of suckling. So for example, the woman that has breastfed you when you were a child, she's forbidden for you. Okay, so yes, and the daughters that have been the daughters that have been suckled by your wife are also completely forbidden. Wal akhawat, and your sisters from the same suckling mother. So a boy and a girl, they were breastfed by the same woman. That's also the marriage between them is completely forbidden. Al banat wal akhawat wal ammat, even aunts. A person that's considered to be an aunt to you because of the woman that suckled you, that's also, and khalat and banat al akhi wa banat al ukhti min ar-rada', and all of this, when it comes to the relationships that come as a result of suckling and breastfeeding, then this is considered to be not allowed for marriage also. I'm not going to dwell on it too much because again we can move on. It's not really a common topic that comes up. And then we have a fourth reason why it may be forbidden for 2 people to get married, and that could be a temporary reason. What we mean by temporary reason means that if that reason was to go away, then the people would be, as in the relevant people would be, as in if the reason, because of any, if the barrier was to be uplifted because of any natural reason, then that marriage would be permitted. So in that, for example, 2 sisters, right? It is not permitted, even though technically, Islamically, a man is allowed to have 4 wives, but for him to get married to 2 sisters at the same time is completely forbidden. Or for him to get married to a woman and her aunt is completely forbidden. And so this is considered to be a type of forbidding which is predicated and temporary, in the sense that if the marriage was to end with one of the sisters, then it would be, technically speaking, allowed for the marriage with the other sister to be conducted. And that again, it's the rules and regulations, and it's the legislations, not necessarily it does happen sometimes. I've actually seen this. It can happen, and it's a part of society. There was a brother who was an imam in one of the masjids in local masjids in Egypt, that I was living when I was studying there, and there was a very nice voice the Shaykh had, and then it was very unfortunate that while his wife went to visit her mother in the village, she was traveling with his children, and there was an accident with a microbus, and unfortunately the wife passed away and the children survived, alhamdulillah, and inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un at the same time. And then after a few months, he decided to get married to the sister of the woman that had passed away. And so I spoke to him and I said, he was sort of explaining himself, he was just talking to me, and he said, well, I chose to do so because the children have a connection with their khala already, and it would be good, and so on and so forth. And so this is, it can take place in society, but from a legal perspective, yes, this is a temporary forbidding which can end if it does naturally. Another situation where it may be a temporary forbidding is a woman that has been divorced 3 times by the man. So as in the talaq has been done 3 times. So if there was a talaq where the man gave talaq to the woman, whether it be through mutual agreement or otherwise, right? If the talaq was done 3 times, the same 2 people cannot get married again. The man cannot get married to the same woman again until she gets married again, and that marriage ends naturally either by death or by divorce. Then it will be permitted for the same original couple to reunite once again married. So what that means is if the talaq has been done 3 times, then this woman and this man for the woman is forbidden to get married to temporarily, meaning that if she was to go and get married to another man and there was to be a divorce or he was to pass away, then it would become halal once again for them to, the original couple, to once again reunite. Another situation where it would be haram for a marriage to take place is where a man is already married to 4 women. He cannot get married to the 5th one until, because he's already married to 4 women, and that's the maximum number that he's allowed to get married to. What else? There is another situation. Another situation, again, look, it's not about being insensitive, but it's just laying out the rules and regulations. Another situation could be that a woman is already in another marriage. So the whole concept of even considering or dwelling or thinking or contemplating marriage to that woman would be wrong. And of course, marriage indeed would be wrong to that person because she's already married in another marriage, or that she is in a iddah. She is in her sort of mourning period, in a waiting period, especially if it's a talaq raj'i, a returnable, a sort of raj'i, meaning a talaq that can be sort of retracted. And we've spoken about this earlier in one of the lessons. So a woman that's already married and a woman that's in her iddah after talaq, okay, especially if it's raj'i, it is not permitted for someone to get married to that woman, or even to propose to her, especially if it's raj'i and if she is already in a marriage. Another situation could be that a temporary forbidding on the marriage would be because the woman does not believe in Islam or Christianity or Judaism. These are the 3 religions which are considered to be if a woman is Muslim or Christian or Jewish, then it is allowed for a Muslim man to get married to that woman. But if she does not believe in any of these religions, and if she is a polytheist or a pagan or an atheist and so on, then that nikah would also be invalid. Now again, it's not to say that, it's not to make a statement or anything, it's to say that this is what the legal system is saying, and these are the compatibilities, and these are the scenarios where a marriage could be temporarily forbidden. But if the woman went and accepted Islam or Christianity or Judaism, then the nikah technically would be permitted. Okay, and I didn't expect it, but this actually covers the topic of muharramat fi zawaj, women that you are not allowed to get married to in a nikah, or marriages which are not permitted in Islam. May Allah give us understanding. And inshallah next week we'll move on to the next chapter. تقبل الله منا منكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.